When I first opened up my phone this morning, I saw something that shocked and appalled me so much, I felt like I needed to make a video about it. So here we are. Hey everyone, I am Colin, the resident nerd and Bible scholar here at the Bible Uncut and Unfiltered. Over the past year or so, we have seen an influx of AI-generated art all over the internet, but particularly on Facebook. And we all know people who just repost that content, usually with captions like, "Why doesn't this ever trend?" Well, because it's AI-generated, and it obviously is trending because a lot of people are commenting stupid things on it. And it bleeds over into Christianity a lot more than I am comfortable with. But normally it's not necessarily harmful, it's just stupid. But what I saw today crossed the line into harmful, and I don't feel like I can just let it go. I thought about putting up a picture of the content here for this video, but it bothers me enough that honestly I don't think it would be appropriate to put the image up here because it can be disturbing. What was it? It was an AI-generated image of Jesus hugging the children who died in the Camp Mystic flood in Texas in heaven. While I understand the intent of it was to comfort and to say that any of the children who died are in heaven with Jesus, I believe this response is profoundly misguided and extremely insensitive. So first, let's be clear about what happened. Real children faced very real terror in the flood in Texas in the past week. Real families are grieving, and real communities have been devastated. But when we respond to actual human suffering with artificial imagery, especially religious imagery, we are trivializing genuine tragedy. And just imagine with me for a minute, God forbid, but something happens to your child that is part of national news, so everybody's seeing it, and somebody else who has no relation to you makes an AI-generated image of your child hugging Jesus. That is extremely inappropriate. Now, maybe if it was one of the parents of the children who died in the flood that made that for themselves and they found some comfort in it, maybe even if they posted it on their own Facebook page, I would be fine with that. Not necessarily something I would do, but you know, everybody grieves differently. But this is somebody that probably has no connection to these people whatsoever, and now it is floating around social media being reposted by people who have no connection whatsoever to this. Images like this don't heal wounds. They don't rebuild homes. They don't give comfort to grieving families. What they do is they just allow us to feel like there was some meaningful statement made, but we can't get let off the hook emotionally so easily. The families that were affected by this tragedy don't need digital art therapy. They need material support, they need genuine compassion, and they need sustained help in rebuilding their lives. Creating or sharing these images is not helpful. And I can't help but address a political side to this disaster as well, because had this event happened just a couple years ago under a different president, many of the same people who are creating and sharing images like this would be calling the flood judgment from God upon our country for having the wrong president in office. And if you don't believe me, it's easy enough to see a whole history of preachers claiming that natural disasters were God's judgment on this country when they didn't have the president that they wanted in office. This selective application of divine mercy versus divine judgment based on who occupies the White House is theological convenience, not genuine faith. And I want to be fair too. There are actually some on the liberal side who have been responding to this by blaming conservatives for the tragedy. That is wrong as well. Natural disasters happen regardless of political affiliation. Now, it is legitimate to examine whether adequate resources and infrastructure and preparation could have been in place, and whether budget cuts to emergency services or safety programs may have worsened the impact. That is fair, but it is wrong to blame somebody who voted differently than you for a natural disaster. That is extremely insensitive and very unchristian. So what would a better response to all this look like? Well, first, I'd say practical action. Donate to verified relief organizations. Volunteer if you're in the area. Support local businesses as they try to work through recovery efforts. These actions require effort and resources, not just emotional reactions and certainly not AI-generated images. Second, keep sustained engagement. Tragedies fade from news cycles. As terrible as this event has been, within the month, it is going to be faded from the public view and from the minds of most people who don't live in that area. But recovery takes years, and the families that have been affected by this are going to need ongoing support long after the cameras stop rolling and the hashtags stop mentioning their town. Third, honest political discussion. We can examine emergency preparedness, infrastructure funding, safety protocols, but without turning this into partisan warfare. Good policies prevent future tragedies. Political point scoring doesn't. And finally, genuine spiritual response for those so inclined. If your faith moves you to pray, then pray. If it moves you to go and help physically, then go and help physically. Pair your faith with actions. As James said, faith without works is dead. What we need right now is neither AI-generated images nor political blame games. We need unity in action, empathy in response, and intelligence in our long-term solutions. The children and the families affected by this tragedy deserve better than AI-generated sympathy masquerading in the Christian faith. They deserve our full attention, our genuine care, and commitment to building a world where preventable suffering happens less often. And when suffering can't be prevented, people, including Christians, step in with real solutions instead of platitudes generated by a computer. Let's do better and be better, starting right now for these people who are hurting.